Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. It is 10:42 on the East Coast and 7:42 on the West Coast. Wherever you're joining us, thank you so much for starting your day with us here at Live Now from Fox. You might remember this story from just a few days ago. A man hijacking a city bus there in Queens, the driver jumping from the window to escape. Then we saw that bus slam right into a power pole. A crazy situation, but yeah, it appears to be part of a larger problem there in New York City. We're talking about crazy crime. Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers joins us now live to explain more about that situation. As always, Lisa, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Josh. Well, this was another crazy, broad daylight, unexpected, seemingly random occurrence that happened. It was very scary for these passengers. There were about two dozen people on the bus, as you could see from the video that we showed you. It is broad daylight. They're riding on the bus. The man, the suspect, who is in his 40s, and his name is Dwayne Gaddy, he apparently missed a bus, or a bus would not stop for him. Then the next bus that came along on that particular route, according to police, he jumps in front of the bus. He's waving this very realistic looking, they're calling it a gun replica, but if you see it, it looks very realistic, like a real handgun. He's waving it at the bus driver. The bus driver stops, opens the door of the bus because he's now by the door. He lets the guy on. At the same time, the quick thinking bus driver opens the back doors of the bus so that all the passengers, as you can imagine, they run off and they get off the bus. So the bus driver starts to drive because the guy's telling him to drive, and then the bus driver jumps out the window, out of the window by his driver's seat, and then the suspect, Dwayne Gaddy, takes over behind the wheel and then is only able to commandeer the bus for about a block and crashes it into a pole there. So aside from minor injuries, there was no, luckily it was not a real gun, and luckily nobody was seriously injured, but it's just this type of crazy random thing that has New Yorkers on edge. We've seen a 41% rise in crime, subway crime. There's been a big rise in attacks on bus drivers, crimes happening on the bus, and those types of things. And people have just had enough.
I mean, I'm not surprised that they've had enough. I would definitely have enough. So what are police doing? Have they increased patrols at this point? Can they even increase patrols? What can they do?
Well, they've had the governor has said they want to put cameras in the subway system everywhere, and some of the buses supposedly have cameras, but the thing is that the police details are put on they're put into the subway system and of course on the streets, as they always are, but they've been surging the police officers into the subway because that has become so violent. There's been so much more crime there. But the bus drivers, they're kind of on their own because, it's one thing, even if there's a camera there, that driver, he or she is at the wheel of that bus by themselves, basically. They've got the passengers there, and they're on the move. They're in transit. They're moving from point A to point B to the next stop to the next stop. So anybody can get on. They have to take everybody that comes to the bus and get on. So if they run into trouble, it's not like on a school bus where you have the school matron in the back, or you'll have an assistant for the driver that's in the back, in case the kids get super rowdy on the bus. There's nobody there to back that poor bus driver up. And the transit workers union, they say that they have seen an increase in attacks on bus drivers, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of people, especially now, there's more people taking the bus because the subway, they perceive, and the facts bear it out, the subway is so much more dangerous. So there's a lot more people taking the bus, but the drivers don't have, they don't have that kind of security.
And that's what I was going to mention because, you see this crime on city buses, crimes against bus drivers, but also the subway system seems to have its own issue with crime. I'm thinking about the Green Goblin gang that was captured on camera there, and that's just one instance. So, if you can't take the subway, you try to take a bus, and then you have this sort of thing happen.
No, absolutely. And I think, too, it's like you have people, New York has come back somewhat since the pandemic, and you have people that want to work, people that want to get to their jobs, that want to get to their various activities. And you can't, the taxis have gone up, the private car services, those are very, very expensive. It's just everything has gone up. So if you want to get around, and you live in the city, one of the beauties of living in the city for many people for many years was because of the bus and subway system, they didn't have to go through the expense of owning a car. So, which is tough. It's very expensive in New York City, and it's also, hard to find parking and that type of thing. But this is the type of random, the random type of crime that we've been seeing. We had an incident 2 weeks ago in a major subway station that's a hub in Queens, also in Queens, for a major hub for people coming in by bus to take the express buses to LaGuardia and Kennedy airports. And there were two men. One guy bumps into the other man. One was in 48, the other was 50 years old. So these weren't teenagers or, what people might think, oh, they're coming out of school or whatever. Grown men, evening rush hour. One bumps the other one, knocks his phone onto the tracks. The guy who was on the phone and lost the phone says, go down on the tracks and get it. They start fighting. And the man who bumped into him ended up on the tracks getting killed over something, over a cell phone. And it's just this kind of thing that's happening, not at 2 o'clock in the morning, not at 3 o'clock in the morning, not on the weekend when people might be drunk or, intoxicated in some other kind of way or high on something. It's happening at the busy times of the day, in broad daylight, rush hour, when you have to be out. So I think that's the thing that's got, it's got a lot of people on edge and extra alert. I mean, I have people coming up to me every time we do these stories and they're like, well, I have my pepper spray, or this is what I do. And you're seeing private citizens developing these strategies, these safety strategies, so that they can reduce their risk of becoming a crime victim, because there's just more types of crime and it's happening at more random periods of time and more random locations than they could have expected. Josh?
And like you said, the fact that it's in broad daylight, because unfortunately, a lot of times you have people who have maybe been drinking too much, maybe they're high on drugs, it's nighttime overnight. It's considered to be a little more dangerous when it is dark out, but we're talking broad daylight. It's light. People can see what's going on, and you have somebody hijack a bus or, push somebody onto subway tracks. It's just insane to think about.
It is insane to think about. And it's also, too, it's common sense. I mean, not just New Yorkers, but anybody in any big city where there's a lot of people around or whatever, you're going to expect on a weekend night, late, like our subway system, one of the amazing things of it has been, for the city that never sleeps, it runs 24 hours a day. But the fact is, it's like one of the things that you have to worry about is just the timing of these things too. It's not like a weekend night when you have a group of people coming from a party or the bar's closed and then everybody's flooding into the system, or there's a major event. These are just the course of regular day, your regular daily activities, your regular routines. And it's really a shame, because honestly, before the pandemic, the police department in New York City had done an extraordinary job complying with new mandates in terms of their relations with communities of color, in terms of their safety records, in terms of all of those types of things, and also reducing crime at the same time. They brought safety and justice at the same time, and then now we've just seen it's so much of it eroded, and it's very sad for those of us who are, longtime New Yorkers and love the city and love what it represents. But it's just, you just hear every day about somebody moving out.
And not surprised there. All right, Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers. Anything you want to add before we let you go and get back to your day?
I think the thing is, come to New York. Obviously, come visit New York if you want to come visit New York, because there's no place like it. I love the city, but the fact is, and hopefully they'll start to get a handle on these things and turn things around. But it's just there's too much going on, and there's not enough people being held accountable. When you have people riding the subway system, and these are cases that have been, publicized and where they've been arrested with hatchets, with hammers, with these types of violent attacks, where people have died from these violent attacks, being shoved onto the tracks for no reason. With that kind of thing going on, it's just it's like, who's really running things, and why aren't these people being taken off the streets when they first, when they are first, or when they have, like, at least by their third or fourth crime, at least take them off the streets and save lives and prevent other people from going through these traumas.
For sure. Well, Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers, as always, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, and stay safe out there.
All right, I will, Josh. Thank you so much.